dividing line. And it's presumed to be a common fence if it's on that line, whether or not one of the owners or not decided on what the fence is going to be. If it's located on a dividing line, it's presumed to be a common fence between both neighbors. Usually that fence and the cost of maintaining that fence is borne by both homeowners. The problem comes when a neighbor wants to put up a fence on the dividing line. They ask their neighbor to contribute to half the cost, and the neighbor says, I'm not going to pay for half the fence. I don't want to pay for half the fence, but it's on the dividing line. So what happens then? Well, one of the owners can ask that that fence be exclusive to themselves. So although it's on a dividing line, they are solely and exclusively the owners of that fence. They can change it at will. They can do what they want when they want to that fence without going over the dividing line. But they basically assume the exclusivity of that fence. Or they can force the neighbor to pay for half of the fence. And I've seen many cases go to small claims court where a common fence that's put up on the dividing line shall be borne by both neighbors. If you don't want to deal with the problems that come with a common fence, if you're not on the type of terms with your neighbor where you feel they can pay for half the fence, the best thing you can do is put up a fence just inside the dividing line. Yes, you might give up an inch or two of the dividing line, but I can trust when I tell you this, the peace of mind you're going to get from that, to do as you wish with that fence and not have to run it by your neighbor every single time you want to make an adjustment, or you want to change the fence, or you want to put up, for example, a different type of fence in 5 or 6 years. By doing that, you'll concede maybe an inch or two, but the discretion to do what you want with that fence is very important as well. So just to recap, on the dividing line, it's presumed to be a common fence unless you can prove otherwise. And if you don't want to deal with having your neighbor have a say in what kind of fence, when you put up, which contractor you use, how high it is, or when you get to make adjustments to it, if you don't want to deal with all that, then just put your fence up inside the dividing line, so it will be exclusively your fence. If you need access to your neighboring lot to be able to put this fence up, they have to give it to you. The law says that if there's no way that you can, or no reasonable way that you can put up your fence without using your neighboring property, the neighbor has to give you that notice. There is a catch though. You have to give your neighbor advance written in writing. You have to let them know that you want to use that. You have to give them an approximate date of when your contractors are going to come, and you have to let them know what the extent of the works are going to be, just so they have a full understanding of what type of encroachment you're going to need on their land to be able to fix this. And that principle goes for all other types of renovations as well. Roofing, for example, if you have a house that is not separated, it's a joint house, an attached home, and you need your neighbor's roof, or you have to go onto their side to be able to fix your roof, that is access that the neighbor has to provide you with. If you need access to your neighbor's yard, or your neighbor's driveway, or any other part of their land to be able to access, to be able to construct or build what you want to build, that is access that they have to provide you with, unless there is another way that would cause less prejudice to everyone involved, and it's an easier way than the one you suggested. So on certain occasions, neighbors are entitled to say, hey, you're not going to rip up my whole fence. There's a much easier way to go through that route. It's less effective, less costly, and it doesn't cause me the prejudice. If they're justified in saying so, then they might be found to have reason in that case. So if it's the easiest, most convenient way, there's no question the neighbor has to give you access to the land to be able to build your land. A few other points quickly that I wanted to get to. You want to also watch out with the noise levels during this time and debris levels during this time. When you have all these mini excavators and all the debris and the dust that's going around, the companies don't really mind because they want to get in there and get done as quick as possible. But if you have a lot of the dust and the dust from the cutting of the concrete, companies have the obligation to try to mitigate what the effect is on the neighboring properties. So sometimes they put up curtains, sometimes they put up these tarps. You want to try and limit how much damage you are causing to your neighboring properties, because that is part of your obligation as well. You can't just go in there and do whatever you want at the expense of everybody. You have to try and limit damage you cause to all of your neighbors. So that's pretty much all the time I have for today. Again, if you have any questions or comments, you can go on to cjad.com. If you scroll down to the schedule, you'll see Sundays at 5 o'clock. The legal lounge is right there. You can click on my email address, which I provided for, and you can send me any topics or question that you may have that you've heard on today's show or any other show for that matter. And like I mentioned many times on the air, you, the listener, is the one that drives the show, and the topics that you guys are asking decides exactly what I talk about on air. So if you have any questions, again, or comments, go on to cjad.com, the legal lounge page right there, Sundays at 5 o'clock, and submit them through email. If you do need the services of an attorney, you can call me at my office at 450-687-1234. That's 450-687-1234.